Here we are, George, in the Portal 2 episode.
Excellent. Good. It's weird. I feel some red fluid trickling down from my ears because I think that the portal device involuntarily removed my ear tubes from my ears. But I hear that that's normal. I just need to lie down, assume the party submission position, and we can continue on.
I think you might be confusing the resolution to the first problem, probably because of the first problem.
It's really hard to hear you over all of this blood. What was that?
I just hear a constant whooshing.
It's like listening into a seashell, but awful.
But blood, an ocean of blood. That's from Trigun. You never watched all Trigun, did you?
No, I've tried.
So there's like a story. There's all these stories about how he's like this terrifying gunman, but actually he's like a big namby-pamby and doesn't like fighting. And so he's walking down this long hallway where he knows people are waiting to fight him. And so he's singing a song about like how he's going to kill them, but it's this like jaunty tune. And one of the lines is an ocean of blood. And like he gets to the end of the hall and they're all still like ready to fight him. And he's like, damn it.
But yeah. So on that note, oceans of blood,
of blood. We played Portal 2 as was foretold. This game, also less recent than you would think so we screwed up on how recent Portal 1 was. And like in the opposite direction, it felt like, everybody had to wait 1,000,000 years for Portal 2, but they didn't. It was 4 years. It came out April 18th, 2011. So
yeah, that also doesn't feel right. It feels like this game. But to be fair, I do know that it's correct because I've had this issue a number of times where basically as I was like, oh man, you got to play Portal 2, man, you got to play Portal 2, and somebody was like, sure, man, can I pick it up? And I was like, yeah, sure, you've got a PS4. It's on the PS. No, it's on the PS3. And the problem is PS4 wasn't backwards compatible. So when the PS5 was coming out, I was like, maybe, but you still can't buy it in the store or anything like that. You gotta have to get it on Steam, like legitimately. So yeah, no, it came out for the PS3. It's like of Skyrim age and not re-released like Skyrim was.
Nothing is re-released like Skyrim.
Yeah, because it wasn't broken. They made it right the first time.
Yeah. What are your new nostalgia goggles for this game?
So this is one where definitely I bought it relatively soon after it came out. And I will, instead of talking too much about that, I will share a specific nostalgia experience that I had with it.
Do it. Be specific. Be scientific.
Yeah. If people's lives aren't at stake, is it even science?
No.
So we, this game has a co-op mode, which we'll get into, right? And so, I played through the main story, love the main story, right? Played through all that, and I was like, oh man, there's a co-op mode, and I played this with my wife, and this was the game that had the potential to end our marriage, right? Because we could not play this game well together. And what specifically brought it all to a head, and I will say that we did play it again recently for this playthrough, and we played through it swimmingly, which to me showed a lot of growth. Like as a couple, it's like, oh, we can do this now.
That's good. That's the direction you want that story to go in.
Yeah, right. So, but at the time, I said to Megan, I'm like, all right, you're gonna put a green, blue portal here and a light blue portal here. Okay, go. And she would do it wrong and dump me into the acid, right? And I was like, okay, again. Here and here. She would do it wrong. And she's laughing because she thinks it's hilarious, right? And so eventually it came to a head when I said, you're doing it on purpose. And she said, no, I'm not. It's really a mistake. And I said, okay. And I put a portal directly over the acid and then went directly underneath her and went, oops. and then that's when we were like, we should probably stop. This is no longer fun for anyone. But uh-oh. Yeah, it was a mistake. Oh, oops. So yeah, that was my nostalgia experience of this. So it sounds awful, but I remember it fondly.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way a lot of like traumatic stories are. It's like, oh, ha, and then we didn't have anything to eat for a week. We had to boil our shoes. Ha, ha, ha. That's not a funny story.
What about you? New nostalgia experience?
Okay, man. This is not a first, but it is rare, and I'm always a little embarrassed when it happens. Is like I was writing out my notes, and because I kind of like take my notes all in one big lump, and then I organize them after the fact into the categories. And I was like, what is my nostalgia experience for this? I can't remember this game entering my life.
I just was.
Yeah. Like, obviously, I can think of a time before the game and after the game, but the time around when the game came in is like weirdly blurry. And I think that speaks to how memeified this whole universe is, because I had a similar kind of problem with Portal 1, right? Where I was like, oh, surely this game's been around for ages. Like, oh, it goes, they used to play it on paper. It was so old. Like, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but my nostalgia experience for this game has always been. And like, I don't know. I guess like at some point somebody came into my room and did like was it Total Recall, right? Where like you think that this game didn't always exist, or maybe it never existed. But what you know for sure is that by the time you get to the credits, you have no idea what actually happened. Like that's like looking at promotional artwork and thinking about like where I was in my life and what I was doing when this game came out. I'm like, okay, I'm sure that I played this on a console originally and not on a gaming PC, because I didn't have a gaming PC at this time. But wait, I did have my work computer. Maybe, okay, but I played it with this person. Maybe I also played the co-op with this other person. It's just like, it's all a blur, man. It's all just like a big mess. So I don't know, dude. Like it's in there, but it's like broken down into its constituent atoms and completely like in a homogeneous, half degree above absolute zero. Like it's just spread across my whole brain.
So basically, like how your brain can make up memories, right? So your brain's making up memories, and then there's your fact checker who like QCs it before it goes into storage. And like, he paints a picture of like you playing on your computer, and your, QC person's like, great, ship it. Great, ship it. Great shit. Like anything that your brain makes up around this game, it's like, sure. Yeah, no, that happened. Yeah, no, that happened too. Dude, it all happened. Whatever.
Every memory was a companion cube, and they all got fizzled. So the room is full of companion cube. It's just, it's full of like the atoms of companion cubes.
So speaking of companions.
Oh, that was good. That was
right.
That was good. I like that. So if you want to be one of our companions and get shoved into a tiny box, you can type words into a tiny box and reach out to us. There's feedback form on the website, nostalgia. I don't know if I've actually ever said this out loud. nostalgiagoggles.audio. Probably for one of the promotions we've done, but it's in the show notes. We're also both on Twitter. You can also find me on Twitch. So if you want to actually see me play these games, fun story about us playing Portal 2. I played through all of Portal on stream. And then I said I wasn't going to play Portal 2 because we had not yet decided we were going to do that. And then I started playing Portal 2 on stream, and one of our regular viewers came in and was like, I knew it! Like, nobody just plays Portal 1. So we really do play these games, and you can see proof. If you want to kind of go that extra mile and support us, aside from just being a listener, the best thing you can do is always ratings, reviews, and just straight up telling people. Like a personal recommendation means everything. And if you want to go really crazy and give us money, you can support us on Patreon. And if you do that at least $1, because that's the minimum, you get the after show, which is more content. Everybody gets that no matter what level they support at. And if you go really bananas, you can actually get shouted out on the show. So we want to thank first our 8-bit classics, which are Yarno,
a yellow curiosity core,
Jason,
a blue intelligence core,
John,
a red anger core,
and Kevin,
a purple morality core.
Good job, Kevin. And our 16-bit heroes, Jacob,
a conscious companion cube,
and Michael,
an ingenious Wheatley,
and our full 3D supporter, David,
a genetic lifeform and disk operating system.
Nice.
Yeah. Huh. I had to save that one, man. It's like I said, we've done 14 Portal related things, right? And I was like, no. Gonna end all of it. GLaDOS.
Yeah. Way out at the end. You got to play the long game sometimes. This game is longer than the first
Doom
one.
2016, I think, showed that I was willing to play the long game.
That's true. That's totally true. Visuals. We should talk about the visuals.
Yeah, we should. So it's like Portal 1, but supercharged. It's just, so they took a lot of, first of all, there's way more game, right? So there's way more visuals, right? Everything's, so just to start, right, before we talk about the new stuff, all of the visuals from the first one, they're just more polished, right? And they kind of need to be, because the spoilers for this game, in case you didn't know, but it takes place like after the first one, right? So, GLaDOS has died, and as Wheatley said, like, yeah, she was killed by a human, and then a very long time went where absolutely nothing happened, and now we're here. So they need that additional kind of polish in order to kind of make everything look grungy and broken down, right? One thing in particular that they did that I really appreciated was the portal gun is no longer a clean, new, pristine portal gun. It's dirty, right? So kind of everything about it kind of feeds into that feel of like, this ain't your parents' portal. And then to be fair, as GLaDOS comes back to life and she starts to stitch everything together, she does have the amazing line of federal regulation requires me to tell you that this room is looking pretty good.
Dude, I have that exact comment in my notes, because I think Valve is known for caring a lot about pushing technology, and not just better graphics, but like they care about peripherals and they care about like VR and all that stuff. So like they want to do things with the technology that are like new and novel. And between 2007 when Portal came out and 2011 when Portal 2 came out, it wasn't just that time had passed so they could do better graphics, but also this game had a substantially larger budget. So stuff was better, and they had money for more stuff. Mm-hmm. So where Portal 1 is defined almost entirely by its like sterile testing lab facility nothingness, right? I mean, we talked about how like blank the canvas is, and all of the reasons that was a smart decision and that it suited the technology as well as the gameplay. Portal 2, from basically the second the game starts, is defined by how utterly filthy and overgrown everything is. All the walls have mold. There's plants growing up into it. When you wake up the second time in the relaxation center.
Yeah, in the relaxation chamber after you've been asleep for 9.
Yes. There's a weird story about that somebody told me, but we'll save that. But when you wake up, and because you start standing, right? It's first person shooter. When you turn and look at the bed, there is a person shaped indent in the bed, and it's got all like the material is all like wrinkled, and there's all these little shadows and dynamic lighting effects and stuff. And like, you can almost feel that Valve was like, okay, everything was super sterile and flat and solid colors in Portal 1 for a bunch of reasons. And all of those reasons are gone now. So let's not just make everything super sterile and flat again. So what narrative reasons? That's kind of like how Pixar does it. So I'm imagining that Valve may have done something similar. It's like, what narrative reasons can we have to push the technology to do this thing? And jumping way forward in time so that the facility is all broken down and gross and grimy, and there's plants and there's different kinds of dirty water, and there's like the like natural order of things. Like there's slopes. Like Portal 1 has almost no slopes. There's like slopey hills and dirt and crap underground. Like it's amazing how unnatural the first game feels in a way, and then how kind of like defined by natural stuff the second game is.
Well, and one thing, and we didn't mention this in the Portal 1 podcast, which happened just moments ago. But the in this one that I wanted to mention, because I have a different memory of it, but I remember Portal 1 ending with just like you hit the ground, like everything's on fire, you hit the ground, and it just shows stuff running down in the background. But when I replayed it this time after purchasing it again, right, is I heard something say like party submission position assumed, and then you get dragged a little bit, right? And I didn't remember that first time. I'm like, did they?
So they retcon that in.
Awesome. Yes. Love it. Love everything about it. Yeah. especially because again they made sure it was steeped in the mission. Because if they just showed somebody dragging you off, I'd be like, that's a little weird. But it's like party submission position. It seemed I'm like, nope, I'm okay with this now. So anyway, so no, that's all fantastic and all 100% true. And so again, this game it's just so much more. So to your point, right, is that I think that honestly, I think that Portal 1 was like their proof of concept, which was Portal 1 was their dual analog stick of video gaming, which is, can the human brain do this and have fun doing it, right? So they did it on probably a very low budget because it's like, there's no way that we can sit there and make a whole game about this concept. And people ate it up and they're like, all right, well, let's just more everything, right? So the plot is amazing and very, very well done. And so because of that, you are often, they do a great job switching between like the very well organized rooms of the testing chambers, right? And the complete disorganized mess that is the facility behind the scenes, right? So, and this is more of a gameplay thing, but like it gives your brain like kind of like I'm in complete puzzle solving mode now. I'm in exploration mode, and it kind of waxes and wanes between all that. But I say all that to say that the sheer vastness of this facility that they've built out is just night and day different from the first one. The first one, you're claustrophobic because you're being shunted from one testing chamber to another. In this one, man, like just some of the underground areas that you're shown truly shows the immensity of the facility. And
that's a great example of the underlying technology being the key thing that changed, right? And so they're like, oh, we were hinting at the fact that this place was gigantic, and now we can literally show you. We can have a giant room where there's things way off in the distance because it's not the N64 and the draw distance isn't 6 feet.
Right. And actually, one of the things that for a while, that visual. So my first take on that visual was this looks amazing, right? My second take was a bit of ludonarrative dissonance, which is I was just kind of like, how did they hollow out the earth to this degree in like this like crazy,
don't you remember? They tell you.
Oh, how so?
It's a salt mine.
Oh, really? I must have missed that.
When you first go into the like Cave Johnson era, mm-hmm. like when you fall way down, mm-hmm. in the display case, there is a newspaper clipping that's been like lacquered onto wood, I think, and it says something like "eccentric entrepreneur buys abandoned salt mine."
Interesting, because I think that so that makes sense for the Cave Johnson thing, but then also too is a part of me was like, so throughout the game, right? Like GLaDOS is wildly changing where everything is, and sometimes destroying stuff in the process, right? So a part of me was like, okay, well now that she's destroyed this, it's this walkway. It's not on a gear with a pulley. Like she can't manipulate it anymore. How would that even work? And I've got a theory behind that, which is that Wheatley says at one point when one of the times when he's still on your team, right? And he's trying to like help you. Is he said like, yeah, don't worry, I'll be there soon. Yeah, I got a job with the nanobot crew. And he says like, oh yeah, like, well, maybe you should have accommodated a nanobot of my size. Way to go, Jer. Thanks for the hate crime, But there are nanobots. So I think that the nanobots build the giant pistons and all that GLaDOS actually manipulates, which I think, and this is a little far afield from visuals, but I can bring it back, I promise, which is that it's like that GLaDOS really is an organism, right? And so like she can, like you and I, we can't, move our liver, right? Or anything like that, right? So the nanobots actually build the stuff. Yeah, right. Coward. But the nanobots build the pieces of the facility that GLaDOS can actually move and manipulate, So that's my theory behind why this place can be so expansive and have all of these big things that GLaDOS can manipulate is because she has nanobots that build this stuff for her.
Yeah, they very much create like, hey, you are in the belly of the beast, right? Like, so, no, she can't control every cell in her organs, but her organs are going to digest you because you've been eaten. So a visual thing I wanted to mention, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to segue into, so thank you for not knowing that it was an abandoned salt mine, because one of the biggest differences between Portal 1 and Portal 2 visually is Portal 1 has a lot of atmosphere in the visuals, and a little bit of narrative, right? And that little bit of narrative is there for you to speculate about and wonder about, right? And then more of it got codified and canonized over time. Because there's like a comic and there's like some other side, like a few short animations or something. So I mean, there's like a bunch of canon that followed the wild popularity. But something they did in Portal 2 that I think they did well, but I still think like was precarious, is how much canon and narrative is just in the environment, right? So like this game has a crap load of dialogue, and we'll talk about that when we get to the audio, but like when you could easily miss that case with, and there's a bunch of things in there that like tell you about Cave and like kind of what he was doing at that time in history and what year all of that was happening, right? Like there's a bunch of stuff that is just kind of like tossed willy-nilly about the environment. But if you are in a rush, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling confused by a puzzle, if you're frustrated by a puzzle or something, like, or there's characters talking, so you think you're getting the narrative because you're running down a hallway and they're talking to you, but actually there's tons of narratives scattered about the hallways you're running down. Like you could easily miss that stuff. And this is something that I'll probably revisit as we talk about the other parts of the game, is there's so much more, right? Like there's so much more. And I would have a hard time arguing with someone if they played Portal 1 and then played Portal 2 and was like, dude, it's overwhelming, because there's so, like you said, you know, the beginning of Portal 1 is defined by like how stark everything is, and then when you get to behind the facility, it's all like grimy and gross and like oh, now I'm in the real world kind of thing. And I think this game does the same thing, but it's not a binary, right? The gross, overgrown part of the facility is still the facility, and then the clean, nice part of the facility represents like GLaDOS regaining control, and then you put her in a potato, kill her. She loses levels. Her character is de-leveled. And then you go into the underground, and the underground is defined by a switch in tone and time and character objective and like a lot, right? Like those visuals convey so much difference to the point where once you've played through the game, when you see a screenshot of like a grimy, overgrown chamber, you're like, oh, that's in the beginning. That's how I should be feeling at this point of the game. Or, oh, that's in the cleaned up chambers. That's when GLaDOS is kind of like back at her full power. And then when you see the underground section, which is kind of most of the game, right? Like most of the game, you're outside of like the core testing chambers, not counting like Wheatley's screwed up testing chambers.
I honestly think it kind of breaks down by thirds, you know, is that I think that about a third of it is through to Portal, to GLaDOS, right? And then a third is
did you just Metroid Samus Aran or like Zelda Link?
Yeah. And then a third is spent underground with Cave Johnson, and then another, it may be off a little bit, but it's spent like in the end with Wheatley.
Yeah, you know? No, you're probably about right. Yeah, because that would be a 3-act play, right? So, but I just think that there's the visuals at each one of those are very, very different, and so even just looking at a test chamber from those different parts of the game, if you've played the game, you're like, oh, I know how I should be feeling because I know where the characters are kind of in the story.
Well, and also too, to your point, right? Not only are the visuals all very different, they kind of give you, and I think this is amazing, is they give you the different flavors of the same, different lenses through which you're viewing the same thing, right? Because they're all testing chambers, right? So you get to see GLaDOS's testing chambers, which we were already familiar with from Portal 1, which is a great kind of like lead-in, right? It you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like the Protoss, the Zerg, and the Terrans, right? They all have similar units, right? It's a little bit different. But then you get to see Cave Johnson's take on the different testing chambers, right? So you still have the cubes, but they're like the old-timey cubes, and you still have the elevators, but they're a little bit different, you know, because they're made for astronauts and war heroes. And these scientists, they didn't go out there and take home the gold. You did. You know, he admires your grit. Hustle could use some work though. But then you get to see Wheatley's take on it, and Wheatley is a disorganized mess because Wheatley is a disorganized mess, you know? So the first thing he does is he's like, okay, well, just solve this puzzle again. So instead of just going into the next chamber in a nice organized fashion like you would with GLaDOS, he just kind of opens the back door and says like, just solve it again. And when that doesn't work, he says like, "Oh yeah, there's not really an exit to this one. Hang on," and then he just smashes two testing chambers together.
Yeah,
he does. He has that kind of stuff. He's just very disorganized. But again, it shows like, okay, this is what it looks like with a modern, in control AI, the way it's supposed to be. This is what it looked like. Like this is the artifact of what it looked like before there was an AI when humans were in charge. And this is what it looks like with an AI that has no idea what they're doing. So they're similar, but they all have completely different feels to it. It's rare that you can get a game to do something like that because they have an excuse to narratively.
Well, and they use a lot of static assets in the world for world building, like when you are escaping from the relaxation center, the first room that you fall into is the little prison cell that you start Portal 1 in, right? But
I know, right?
It's all overgrown and screwed up, right? So like, but you get that immediate, here is a thing that's familiar but has been perverted, right? And nobody has to say like, oh, does this look familiar to you, Shell? Like you were here before, right? Because that would be incredibly ham-fisted and stupid. But there's all these little subtle things, and I thought of a few, but there's probably like hundreds, and my brain just processes them and doesn't even, like, my heart knows, but my brain isn't consciously aware of it. But like, one of my favorite examples of where they use visuals to like put you in the right kind of like character mindset is, think about in the very beginning how Wheatley gets you out of the relaxation chamber, right? He just takes the whole chamber and just smashes it against the wall, right? And it's super visually spectacular because the sides...
Maybe he does a manual override.
Yes, it might get a bit technical. So the sides of the relaxation chamber have crumbled away, and so you can see just rows and rows of these identical buildings that have people in them, right? Or corpses, right? So like, you can see all of this like spectacular visual, but it's all kind of like flying by at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then in the third act, when Wheatley is the one building the rooms, that is exactly how he builds the chambers. He just takes different pieces of test chambers and smashes them together. So like, your entire relationship with Wheatley when he is in charge is that he is a toddler smashing Tonka trucks together. And like, there's just a million little places where they put something on screen, and sometimes it's really subtle and sometimes it's really obvious, like the entire screen moving, but that it sets you up for a future thing. And one that I honestly forgot about, and I'm really glad I have a screenshot of it in front of me, is when you go into that first little room, it's like super early on, that has all of the like artwork, like the what would you call it? Like deific, like it's like holy artwork that the Ratman did of Shell. There is some other artwork that most people miss up on the ceiling. Do you know what it is?
What?
It's the phases of the moon, and they're on tiles that are portalable. The only ceiling in that entire room is portalable tiles, and it's like an old-fashioned like phase of the moon calendar. And how do you beat the game? By shooting a portal at the moon, right? Like, from the first 5 minutes of the game, they basically say, this is how you're gonna win, right? Like, and there's just a million little things like that.
Well, and the game does such a great job. This is just one thing that I just absolutely have to mention, is that I have a crystal clear memory of the ending of the game, because literally, you go to hit the conflict resolution button, right? Stalemate resolution button, right? Because to be fair, you're not a trained stalemate resolution, professional, but you hit that and he goes, oh, booby trap the resolution button, And so you're sitting there, and it's kind of, they take the camera control away from you for a second, right? As you're like slowly and like groggily pulling yourself up. And then you just look up and you see the moon, and they've established that the portable surfaces are ground up moon rocks, right? And they just point the camera at the moon, and then they give you back control. And literally, I remember my brain going, no, there's no way that they're going to let me portal onto the moon. And then you press the button, and then it just pauses, and then you see the little light flash. And then all of a sudden, just the gas starts getting pulled out there, and you're like, oh my God, this is happening. And then they take control away from you again, because they're like, you did the thing. But the fact that they let you portal onto the moon, because they're like, hey, do it. Come on. you know that you want to, and it's like I do. I never have I needed something so much and not known until I received it.
Yeah. Well, and they not to spend too much time on the audio cues, but there are a couple like moon visuals in the game. And there's a bunch of audio cues that talk about the moon, that talk about portable surfaces, right? Like they really steer you toward that, but still let you feel like, even though they have literally taken control of the camera away and pointed the camera directly at the one and only solution to this problem, it still feels great. And it's hard to imagine, like, if you were looking for something in the store and you couldn't find it, and I grabbed you by your ears and steered your face toward it, that you would be like, that was the best way to show me this. And yet that is essentially what we're saying. We're saying having the camera taken away and having our face pointed directly at the thing somehow feels amazing.
Well, because it's like, if you said, oh man, I'm looking to, I've got to make Thanksgiving dinner, right? I've got this huge, big Thanksgiving dinner that I've got to make, right? And so you're kind of going through the store and you're like, I don't know, man, I don't know how to do this. And then you grab me by the head and point me directly at a big red button that says makes Thanksgiving dinner for you. And you just sit there and you say, I mean, there's no way this button's going to make Thanksgiving dinner for me, but I'm going to press it. And you press it and it does. And you're like, whoa, I just never would have guessed. So a couple of things I want to make sure that we touch on in visuals, that I just at a minimum want to mention, is two big things they fixed from the first version, that I threw in here is one, they fixed the hitbox of the boxes that you move. They don't clip on portals anymore. So if you've got a box that you're holding on to and you go through a portal, it doesn't matter if you've got that thing strong armed way out to your right, and it'll almost strip your arm off, but it won't pull it out of your grip, which is just so nice, especially considering that how often they ask you to do that, which is way more in the first one. It was really critical that they fixed that. Another thing is that they fixed portal reorientation, so if you're facing in a direction, you continue to face in that direction. And also, too, a lot of the times they cheat portal placement as well, so like if there's a 2 portal wide angled surface for you to portal onto, if you fire a portal anywhere except on the far left or the far right, it puts the portal dead in the center. Yes. It's like, this is what you're trying to do, right? And you're like, yes, that is what I'm trying to do. That may not be what I did. And in Portal 1, it's just wherever you pointed the gun, that's where the portal went. But they'll cheat it a number of different times to just make it easier, because they're like, this is what you're trying to do, right?
Well, and this is a little bit of a mechanical change, but like first-person shooters pretty much universally have like some sort of aim correction or auto aim
assist.
Thank you. Aim assist. Like, even if they don't flat out call it that or tell you that it's happening, there almost always is some, because the controls aren't perfect. The engine isn't perfect, right? And so to do that in a game like this, I think you can be pretty heavy-handed, right? So if you have that, because all the tiles are like, they're tall rectangles. Mm-hmm. So you have a square, which is made of 2 tall rectangles side by side. There's a seam in the middle, and it's like, we're not going to design puzzles where we need them to put it on the left rectangle or the right rectangle. The point is that it's a big square target, and we want them to shoot it roughly in the center, right? And so the aim assist in this, I would not be surprised if it's like super heavy-handed, like way over the top heavy-handed, because who the hell cares? You're not playing Halo Online, where it's like if every time you pulled the trigger, somebody died way on the other side of the map. Like, that wouldn't feel very fun or fair. But because the question isn't, can you make the shot? It's, do you understand how to solve the puzzle? It's like, aim assist the crap out of it, please.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there's never a time I can think of where the aim assist is so heavy-handed that visually it was jarring. Because that could be a problem, but you can design around that by just having limited surfaces to fire portals onto.
Which they do. The other thing that I want to make sure that I mention, and then outside of this, I just have a couple throwaway notes, is so as we mentioned, there are these enormous underground caverns, right? And there is, as opposed to in Portal 1, where basically just at the very end do you actually like explore the facility for a very small period of time, a lot of your time is spent exploring the facility, not just solving puzzles, right? So the key is follow the light. If you don't know where to go, look for the light. Wherever the light is, that's the next place you got to go.
Did you come to that on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, in the sense that every video game I played up till now has taught me that. But yeah,
I mean, like
no,
you recognized it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I maybe subconsciously knew that, but I hadn't like consciously recognized it. And someone in Twitch chat mentioned that because you can play this game with like a commentary track turned on, which I've never done. But apparently in the commentary track, one of the game designers or one of the producers or something, he mentions the light thing several times. Like, oh, in this room, testers were having a hard time. And so we put a light over here. And, then some people said, oh, it's too obvious. So like we made the light higher. So it's shining down on the thing. It's not right on the thing. And like the person who made that comment said, I was a little frustrated when I heard that because now I can't stop using it to cheat with, like, because I don't actually think about solving the puzzle. I just walk into a room and look for where the lights are. And I was like, oh man, then you're not immersed enough. Like they should just be lights that some of them are on and some of them are off. If you are looking around at the lights, then you are thinking about playing a video game. You're not Shell and Potato GLaDOS desperately trying to fight for survival. Like, you are a person sitting in a chair playing a video game. That's your fault.
That's on you.
Open your heart and get immersed in the experience. But I did not recognize the light thing on my own, but it's 100% true.
Yeah, no. And so basically kind of the way it worked for me is that I think that probably 80% of the time, I just naturally looked towards the light. Like, you look around the room.
That's why it works so well.
That's why it works so well. But I will say whenever I got lost, I would so already I was broken out of the game because I'm like, I don't know where to go. So I'd be like, okay, just take a minute, look around for the light. Where's the light? Okay, here's where the light is. And again, the nice thing is that they never ever ask you to portal into some obscure place in the side of the map. They never ask you to do anything weird, like to put a portal anywhere where there isn't obviously supposed to be a portal. So because of that, like, I was never like, oh no, I need to kind of scour this map like all over the place to find these. No, it's like they want to keep you moving at a pretty solid, consistent pace. And I do know that the follow the light works is because literally, and I don't think I've established this yet for in this episode, is that so my son and I have played about 40 hours of this game. It is his new favorite game. He wakes up on Saturdays because he doesn't get to play video games or watch TV during the week. Every Saturday morning, he wakes up and right after breakfast, he says, can we play Portal? And we sit down for like an hour and a half and he just goes. He is at the point now where between memorization and kind of understanding the mechanics, he can play a lot of it himself. I say all that to say that when he does get lost, right, in the exploration sections, is I'll say, take a minute, buddy. Where's the light? And I think I actually said to him, because I was like, the developers will put light where you need. And they go, there's a light. I'm like, so how do you think that works into your puzzle? And they go, oh, I know. I need to put a portal here. And I'm like, there you go. You got it. But so literally my son's 6. So if it works for a 6-year-old, it should work for everyone. And that's good game design because the point of this isn't to stump the player. You know what it isn't? It isn't one of the complaints for Ocarina where it's trying to find a soulless crystal in some soulless cavern in the side of the room. Is that a puzzle? Is this fun? Is this what you want? It's not that.
Yeah. And I think to be fair to this as a visual mechanic, because this is very much a steering mechanic that is done 100% through visuals, is I don't know that I could reasonably say it's unfair to say you're in a dark room and the things that we want you to be able to pay attention to are illuminated, right? Not by a stupid, non-diegetic glowing outline, not by a magical floating arrow that's like, stupid, go over here, stupid, right? It's like some of the lights in this room work. And so if you are trying to look for things, you must by necessity look where there are things to see, right? So like, yes, it is sometimes a little heavy-handed that they artificially make something super dark, but like, again, they made that work with the narrative because you're underground. There isn't a whole lot of light down there.
Yep. And the other just 2 throwaway notes I have is one is that the initial Aperture Science Laboratory was opened in 1961. I know that because it's painted on the side of the wall, to your own point, right? Like I didn't notice the first time or maybe even the third time I played through with my son. But I think to your point with the visuals on the narrative is that they're nice, just things. Again, I've played this game all the way through now, probably 5 times, because again, my son's new favorite game. And I'm still finding new little stuff where I'm like, oh, neat. So the fact that you can't find it on your first go, I'm kind of cool with, because that's the replay value. The New Game Plus is all the little stuff you find when you go through. And finally, the one other thing they did that I really, really love is that, when you're playing through the first time, it's just the standard aperture science. And then when you go into the underground tunnels, it's the old timey aperture science on the loading screen. And then when you come back, it's Wheatley Laboratories.
Yes.
And that's just,
and it's like a big crossed out, like a petulant child crossed out aperture, because he is.
You just like put it over like a sign over there. It's like it's Wheatley Laboratories. And it's like, it's just, again, that type of attention to detail, because to your point is it's not immersion breaking. Because if it was always like, oh, here's your loading screen, it says aperture science. It's like, no, you're not. You're not just playing a game, you're in the universe. So this is Wheatley Laboratories now, because not only is he an idiot, he is the biggest idiot that the smartest people in the world could make, and you put him in charge.
Oh God, I can't remember exactly how she says it, but she says, he's the result of the greatest minds of a generation working to make the dumbest moron who ever lived.
Yeah, and you just put him in charge.
Yeah. You also get Oh, good. That still works. Oh my God. This game is quotable in a dangerous way.
Yeah.
So, my two last things are to follow on to your last comment. You also get, progressive title screens. So in Portal 1, I know there's at least 2. There's before you beat the game and after you beat the game. But in Portal 2, there's like a bunch, like a whole bunch, right? So as you play through the game, if you're actually quitting all the way out to the title screen and then reloading, there's a whole bunch of different title screens that kind of evolve as the narrative evolves, just like you sort of get the 3-act loading screens. The one other thing, and this is like such a weirdly small note to end visuals on for me, but when you get a cube, like a weighted companion cube that you have, or they're not all companion cubes, only the ones with the hearts are companion cubes. When you get a weighted cube and you put it on the button, there's a circle. Yeah, there's a circle around the center, the circle in the middle of the cube, and it goes from blue to yellow, which is also what the lights on the floor do, which tells you if your back is to the door and you put the cube down and it turns yellow and you turn in pretty much any direction, you will see the now yellow lights, right? So your eye will just naturally follow them. And they did almost the same thing in Portal 1. Portal 1 has the dots on the ground and it has like the little indicator next to the door or to the platform or whatever. But having the cube change color, so because you can't possibly not have the cube in your entire field of view, it's such a thoughtful little improvement. They didn't have to do that. I'm pretty confident nobody was deeply confused by how the buttons worked, but it just shows that in the game and in the world of the game, that being confused by what the button did is not part of the test, right?
Right.
So like you should immediately know, is the cube on the button, and did the button activate so that I can see like what changed in the world? So it's like, it's a tiny little thing, but it's that level of polish and thoughtfulness that like the seeds were there in Portal 1 and then they just beautiful flowers in Portal 2.
So I did have to double check. So to answer your question is, you have your companion cube. It is a weighted storage cube or a discouragement redirection cube are the ones
the laser one. Yeah.
Laser one. Yes.
Discouragement. That is a good name.
It is, right? I mean, like just a lot of the execu speak that they throw into this is just, just delightful. But speaking of execu speak, audio.
Yeah. There's so much more audio in this. Like
so much more.
If there's more visuals by an order of magnitude, there's more audio by like 10 orders of magnitude. Like an order of magnitude. It's so much more.
Well, and I think that the amount of audio that they put in here really kind of shows that the team that made Portal 1 gets it. Like they get what made Portal 1 popular. Like what makes Portal 1 popular? Really, really awesome puzzles and really awesome like dialogue narrative. Not narrative being there is no text crawling across the screen. I know there's no text crawling across the screen because Teddy can play it. Everything's delivered either through the visuals, the mechanics, or through the audio, right? And one of the things that again, like to me, I'm not saying that a 6-year-old needs to be able to grasp every game, but to me, if Teddy can grasp it, it means that they've made it crystal clear what it is that they're doing, right? And so literally, one of the things that happened was in one of the rooms, the first room where you get a companion cube, you pick it up and GLaDOS fizzles it, right? So it makes a very, very loud noise. It fizzles and she goes, oh, I accidentally fizzled that before you could do anything with it. Here's another one. And so Teddy literally furrowed his brow and looked at me like, what just happened?
Should we be mad about that? I'm a little mad about that. So
I just kind of pointed at the TV, and so he picked up and then she's like, oh, I fizzled that one too. He looks at me, he goes, GLaDOS is mean. And I was like, yeah, she is, and so then later on, like after Wheatley becomes in charge, right? Teddy, like this whole thing happens and he's kind of like, and I'm watching him because I'm like, this might be a little intense, because Wheatley taking over gets a little intense. So when you're falling all the way down, Teddy looked at me, he goes, Dada, what happened? And I was like, what do you think? He goes, I don't think Wheatley's our friend anymore. And I'm like, no, he is not. And he goes, huh. And so like, but again, like, so the audio cues are just very, very crystal clear, because when it's immersive dialogue that they're just kind of giving to flesh out the world, that's done while you're doing stuff, right? But if it's dialogue where they need you to focus and pay attention, that's done when basically there's either nothing else going on, or they've like, it's basically a cutscene. So like when GLaDOS revives, you're in control. There's nothing for you to do, right? Whereas like when Wheatley is just being a moron and you're just kind of getting that information into your brain that Wheatley is a moron, you're walking, you're talking, and he's just saying his dumb stuff. So anyway, so it's just expertly done.
Well, because these are performances, right? Like there's any voice actor is doing a performance, but these are the kind of performances where, and God, I think his name is Stephen Merchant that does Wheatley's voice. And then Ellen McLean or whatever, who's GLaDOS and also all the turrets and everything. And then Cave Johnson is J.K. Simmons. I don't actually know who does the voice of the opening narrator, the narrator who talks to you before GLaDOS is revived. And he only comes back again as like a warning noise. Right. Like he never really speaks to you again after that. But there's, again, like a million little subtle foreshadowing things and like world building things they do. So like, here's some of the ones that I like. Wheatley from the word go is just, he never shuts the hell up. And you subconsciously learn something, which is, do I want to sit here and listen to him or do I want to plow through? And I think what they're trying to get you to do is be fed up with him so that it's easier to deal with him as a villain, because you're supposed to feel a sense of urgency since you're trying to escape, right? And he's like kind of a happy-go-lucky idiot. Like he wants to escape, but like he's not really that helpful in a lot of ways. And so this game doesn't just have a lot of dialogue. It has a lot of hidden dialogue. Mm-hmm. If you are patient, Wheatley has about twice as much dialogue as you have to hear. And some of it is even stitched together in such a way that if you blow past a line of dialogue and it cuts, like it jump cuts to the next one, you might not even know, because he talks so much, so fast that everything he says kind of just flows together. So if you are like super aggressive or you're getting frustrated with him, like you might miss a ton of his dialogue, which adds to the replay value because you want to get more of it.
Which, to be fair, GLaDOS actually says is that, they created so he would come up with a, quote, endless stream of bad ideas.
Yes.
Which is what he does,
yes.
He just is constantly brave. So like you sometimes like have trouble focusing because Wheatley is constantly like needling you. And so it creates empathy with GLaDOS because you're like, no, I know exactly what that feels like. I was carrying this guy around. Like I had the moron
earpiece from Harrison Bergeron.
Oh my God, he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. I would not be surprised if someone in the commentary track references that book because he is. So one of the things that I noticed, you can tell me if you disagree with this, but I felt very clever when I put this together. I feel with a pretty high level of confidence that the writing, like the dialogue they wrote for the narrator in the beginning of the game, is almost exactly the same tonally as the dialogue that Cave Johnson has in his recordings. The difference is in presentation. Cave Johnson yells at you. He goes off on weird tangents, and he's obviously, going off script and stuff. In fact, at one point he flat out says like, oh, they told me that these recordings might interfere with the test. So you know what I said? More recordings. I pay the bills around here.
Specifically when the scientists are upset that he told you about the control group for the repulsion gel.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Broke every leg in his
if you juxtapose that to one of the early chambers where the narrator is like kind of getting a little more friendly, but still being very like weirdly factual. And I think the best line he has is, two that spring to mind. One is, if physics no longer work in the future, God help you, right? Like he just flat out says, but it's not meant to be teasing or taunting. Like they just tried to prepare for everything they could conceive of. And physics not working is something that Aperture Science was afraid they might have a hand in, because remember, the facility is broken down due to circumstances of a possibly apocalyptic nature. Right. And so like everything he says is not just funny and like kind of getting you in the mood for the game. It's preparing you for Cave Johnson, right? Because you spend most of your time with GLaDOS as her in like a buddy cop sort of thing, with you, but sort of with Cave, because she talks to Cave, but not really. She doesn't converse with you because you don't talk back. In fact, she even makes fun of you for being mute. But I truly believe the narrator, the entire point of the narrator is to prepare you for Cave.
What I would believe is, or at least my headcanon could be, is that because the entire purpose of that narrator is they are the AI that comes online when the real AI, GLaDOS, is not available, right? She's dead.
Because fortunately, the AIs in this facility will work on as little as 1.1 volts.
And unless they have emotional outbursts, those take more than 1 point. Well, to be fair, the potato generates 1 volt, and I think
3 volts. The potato generates 1.3 volts.
I thought the potato generated 1 volt, and that the metal piece of you stabbing it onto your portal gun generated an additional 0.4 volts.
Yes.
So, yeah. So we got to get the math right. Because then she goes like, "Whoa, is that like magnesium in there?" Anyways, I'm getting a little bit of extra juice. And then when she goes, "Wait, what the hell is going on?" It's like, apparently emotional outbursts take more than 1.4 volts. So we're going to continue to figure this out calmly. Anyways, but what I believe, jumping off of your thing, and is now my headcanon, is that that AI is their first attempt, right, with Cave Johnson. So they try to copy over Cave Johnson, and that's all they get, right? And so then when it's a
simulacrum of his personality,
right? And then when they're like, no, we got it now. So they pulled Carolyn in.
So I just realized, I remembered what my NEWstalgia experience for this game actually is. It came back to me.
Yeah.
So, in this game, it has one of the most like well executed pants crapping performances in the whole like Portal Half-Life universe. I've never played the Half-Life game, so I'm assuming. But anyway, when you go into the chamber where GLaDOS's corpse is and you accidentally wake her up, she says, "Oh, it's you." And Wheatley goes, "You know her?" And she just completely ignores him because he is not a threat to her, and she doesn't even know or care what he is. She calls him Little Ball, I think. But when she smashes Wheatley and throws him aside and then picks you up because she's going to put you back to testing for the 60 years remaining in your life, she says, "We both said a lot of things that you're going to regret." And that scene, minus Wheatley's commentary, because nobody knew about Wheatley, that was the teaser trailer for this game. And I remember seeing that online and just feeling the money go flying out of my wallet, just absolutely at light speed into Gabe's wallet at Valve, because I was just like, this is a commercial for a video game that is not really a horror game. And I am terrified and also deeply intrigued, right? Like talk about marketing, dude. But just like those two lines, like, oh, it's you. And we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. Like her performance of that is just like, whatever, like, how much is it? Do I need to mortgage my house or sell one of my kidneys? Like whatever you want. Like, I got to know what is on the other side of those two lines of dialogue.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's just kind of like, I will mortgage my house and give you every cent I have for the true Portal experience. Like, I go to Disneyland, but it's Portal themed. Yeah, no, all of that's awesome. So there is a absolutely ton of dialogue, which we could just sit here and, I mean, honestly, we could probably just quote this back and forth for the rest of the episode, and I would be very happy with the time well spent. A couple of other these are like minor notes, but I think kind of shows the level of thought and polish that went into it. Is one, the music changes depending on how you're interacting with the environment, which is really, really kind of cool, and it kind of codifies what you're doing. So again, I don't think that there's any point when you're using the oh man, I forget what they're called, but the catapults, whatever, they've got a cool name.
Aerial faith plate. Aerial
faith plate. I knew it had a cool name, right? Yeah. Look at you flying through the air like an eagle, piloting a blimp. So when you're, you know, but it has a cool little noise when you're doing that. When you're running fast over the orange goo, it the acceleration gel, it has a sound, and it doesn't completely replace it. It just it's the Yoshi, right? It's totally riding the Yoshi.
Yes.
Yeah. So it does that with every mechanic that you interact with, which to me it's not audio to enhance gameplay, in the sense that I don't think that when you're hovering in a weightless, tube, that there's any part of you that is worried about what's going on, but it's so much more immersive, So that's just amazing. 10s across the board on that one. One of the things I thought was kind of cool is that the audio for you solving the puzzle will kick in before you actually solve the puzzle in a lot of cases, which makes it feel way more organic, right? So when you put the final cube, if every single time when you put the final cube on the final button, that's when GLaDOS started speaking, that would feel gamey. So there's a couple of times, there's a handful of times when the game hedges their bets on the fact that you're unlikely to you've done everything you need to do, and you're really unlikely to screw it up at this point. The one that comes to mind is at one point when you're floating on the weightless column, right? And it won't activate if you because it has to be you and the cube that are floating through that, right? So I accidentally just put the cube in there because I forgot, didn't activate the audio. But the minute that I and the cube were floating after we had floated through and we're floating towards it, that's when Wheatley started talking, because at that point, kind of no matter what I did, I was going to solve the puzzle, Mm-hmm. And that just makes it feel so much more like you're just having a conversation, as opposed to like thing A happened, now thing B happens, like a game.
Yeah, because that is exactly what's happening, but it's the stage dressing is such that it doesn't feel like, right? The illusion is total.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, and sorry, I get such a huge, because again, they're good actors, right? Like this isn't just they hired some person. Like every single person that says a thing in here is great, but like I'm just picturing like the way how excited Wheatley is at first when you're solving those puzzles, where he's like, "Oh yes, well done," like it's like he just got that hit of heroin. His whole body's kind of slinking down, And then when he builds up the tolerance, he's like, "Are you sure you're solving these right? Like, I mean, like, I'm sure that there's like a way, but are you solving them right? The one other note that I want to make sure that, because I got a couple other minor ones, but the one that I really thought was really kind of cool is so the turrets that you pick up, right? They have all of their little lines of dialogue, like, "Are you still there?" and that kind of stuff. Which, by the way, my children have started quoting, much to my terror.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, Lizzie does a spot on "goodbye,"
creepy.
Yeah. Not great. Because the first time she did it, like literally my heart rate increased, and I was like, "What just happened?" And she was like, "Yeah, from Portal, Dada. Goodbye." And I was like, "Okay, that's a thing." But the Wheatley cubes that are this horrible amalgam of the thing, they are awful sounding. They sound like they're in perpetual pain because they probably are. And it's supposed to be. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable and unnatural because Wheatley should not be in charge of the facility. And the fact that they gave them their own little chittering, almost insect-like audio is great.
Yeah.
Awful, but great.
Do you know the very first line of dialogue spoken by a turret in this game? Do you know what they say?
No, what?
The utterly terrifying. So you're running, you're with Wheatley, you're behind like the scenes, like in between test chambers, and you are running down the like catwalk, and you make a turn past a broken tube that has a bunch of broken parts in it, and there is one semi-functioning turret, and as you just blaze past her because you don't care, because they are sentient, as you go blazing past her, she says, "Wait, I'm different."
Oh, that's messed up.
Right? Yeah. It's super messed up.
Yeah.
It's so messed up because it's like, because these are like little GLaDOSes, like they are like her children, so she doesn't control them directly, but they think and act like her because she raised them. So one of the things about the music that I thought was, I don't know, man, I've mixed feelings about this because like our commentary so far has been effusive, like it's pretty glowing. I actually don't know how I feel about all of the additional music. And here's why. The first game is visually and auditorily very stark, right?
Aurally.
You're right, actually. And I know you're right because I remember doing that to you like 100 episodes ago.
You did that exact thing to me like a year ago. And so like right when you did, I was like, oh my God.
It's happening. So it's visually and aurally very stark in Portal 1. In Portal 2, it is visually incredibly busy and cluttered. It's also aurally a lot more busy and cluttered. And my problem with that, like the reason I don't just say like hands down success is because the presence of more noises and more atmospheric stuff is like, it's a surgical knife, right? The presence of music, and this game has music. They released a soundtrack for this game. Like this game has actual, I mean, they're electronica, but they're songs. Songs do a really good job of subconsciously telling you how to feel. And so there are some chambers that you go into where GLaDOS or Wheatley says like a single line, and then the music immediately comes back up. Like it stops being ducked down. And it's like, oh, I guess it's time for me to proceed, right? Like you don't cautiously wait to see if they're done talking because subconsciously they're done talking because the music came back up, right? And like there's a couple times where there's like these incredibly tense like chases and like things falling apart, and there's like music, like movie style, like kind of symphonic sort of music, and it's all electronic, so it's like on theme. But I really kind of grapple with this is like, the visuals being better, like no question, an improvement, right? The dialogue being like more, but also better is like no question improvement. The music, I'm not so sure. Like I don't say it shouldn't be there, but it's harder to just give it like an automatic, check plus thumbs up, like let's move on to controls and mechanics. Like I like it. I enjoy this music quite a bit, but because I know what the Portal universe feels like in this kind of silent, haunting nothingness, I do question if it is an improvement. It's good music, I think it's objectively well composed music, but I'm not positive it's an improvement.
Yeah, I can get with you that I would say that it is personally, but objectively, I'm not sure if I could, say, oh, it absolutely is. And you're being picky. I will say that the first Portal did leverage music when they needed your pulse to jump, because they did it with the before your victory incandescence.
Yeah. And then during the boss fight twice.
And during the boss fight, right. So I would then say that there's a lot more areas in this where they need you to do that. So they have a lot more music that does that, because there's a lot more times when they're like, okay, now it's time sensitive. And you know what? I know when they're doing that because Teddy picks up on it, and he doesn't because he's not at the point yet where he's like, well, if I die, I just get to try again. So whenever that music would kick on, he'd hand me the controller and say, like, you do it, because he knows that it's a chase.
The cue hits him. Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely relaying the information that they want to relay. It does. I would agree with you that the complete lack of music really helped reinforce the sterile environment. But to the point we made before is this isn't a sterile environment, so I'm not sure that the deafening silence that we had in Portal 1 would have translated quite as well, given the more of this one. But but definitely a point to be made.
Something I didn't check, but I'm not I think when you are in Act 2 underground, or I mean it's all underground, but like in the Cave Johnson part, I don't think there's as much music there. I think all of the music is in the electrified modern techno part, because like, the aerial faith plates make music, the buttons make music, but most notably the lasers. When a laser is going into a laser receptacle, whatever they're called, that makes very clear music. Even when you're carrying a weighted cube, there is like a gentle song that's playing, like really quiet. It's really, really subtle. I don't know if I would have noticed it if I didn't have headphones on. But there's just so much more music, but I think it may be all in the GLaDOS Wheatley area and not in the Cave Johnson area, which, if true, is interesting, because that means that the way you're supposed to feel emotionally is so different there that they had to dial that down to almost nothing. They don't go to 1960s music, right? It's not all friggin' big band and I don't know, Elvis. It's like it's just silence, right? And the haunting, like you can hear water like dripping and echoing and stuff. So that's But anyway, yeah, it's good. I like it, but hands down victory, I'm not positive.
The one final thing I'll say is that one thing that you mentioned moments ago in our Portal 1 episode is the fact that the person who voices GLaDOS is an opera singer. So the fact that they end with an opera of all of the different turrets felt appropriate.
Yeah. Especially they really let her shine. Like they let her off the chain even more in this one.
So they let her shine, but I think that they do a great job of, again, like kind of like they get one last like kind of kick in the pants for you, right? Which is a good kind of segue into mechanics, right? Is because so like she's like, okay, just leave, right? And then all of a sudden it's guns pointed at you, and you're like, oh no, wait, they're just going to sing to me, and they're sending me off. They're sending me off. Okay, good. And so you think that like this beautiful ending, and you just walk out into a wheat field where there's nothing but an outhouse, and then they kick your companion cube to the curb with you. They're like take this with you, and it just ends where it's just kind of like, yeah, because and then to end the audio thing, like because she doesn't want you there now, she only wants you gone. But
well, and a song that is as bookendy as Still Alive is bookendy to Portal 1, right? Like God, does a lot of narrative heavy lifting, but you're just so like happy about it. Here's a little fun fact for you, and then this will be my last audio comment. Is I don't remember exactly what they're saying, and I didn't look it up because we have an oath to uphold. But the song that the turrets are singing to you in the end is not gibberish; it's Italian. It's an aria about. Right. I can't remember exactly, and I will look this up later once we're done. But it's a love song. Like she is bidding her love farewell, right? Which, even if you don't know that, because I mean, it's not like I speak Italian, I just know because like I'm familiar with that kind of music. But like, even if you don't know that, there's a line in Now I Only Want You Gone, which is goodbye, my only friend. Oh, did you think I meant you? That would be funny if it weren't so sad, right? And she means the companion cube that she threw out onto the surface with you. And she says, you have been replaced. I don't need anyone now, because she's talking about the co-op mode where she uses the robots. And then this is one of my favorite like visual audio things is she sings, maybe when I delete you I'll stop feeling so bad, but the lyrics are on screen and it says maybe when I delete you redacted. It's just like, so good. So good. And like to be that close to turning the game off and still feeling like you're getting worthwhile narrative.
Yeah, the one last thing I'll say about the song, because I got to gush a little bit about the song, is that my favorite line from that is, one day they woke me up so I can live forever. It's such a shame the same will never happen to you. And then that like reframes the like, she says like, you've got your short, sad life left. That's what I'm counting on, right? Because the only lose condition she has is if you kill her, right? So she's like, I'm trying to kill you, right? So it's like, so what am I going to do? I'm going to let the world do it for me, because all I got to do is just let you go do your thing, and then I've effectively won. And so it's just that type of mentality. And again, like just stooped in GLaDOS's cattiness of like, it's such a shame that'll never happen to you. Okay, go die. Like, yeah. Controls and mechanics.
Yeah. And here's my segue for this. No, shut up. Here's my segue for this. George, shut up. Here's my segue for this. So something.
So wait, I'm sorry. Do you want me to be quiet or?
No, this is good. No.
Okay.
So I mentioned there's like a lot of secret audio, and I actually thought of this before and then forgot because there's so much else to gush about. But the puzzles in Portal and Portal 2 do a very good job of not letting you soft lock yourself. Like you can die, man, can you die? But I can't think of any place in Portal 1 where you can soft lock yourself. In Portal 2, there is a place you can soft lock yourself, and they knew that. And so they wrote specific dialogue that you only get from GLaDOS if you soft lock yourself. And I think this is like an amazing distilled little nugget example of everything we've been talking about so far, because it shows that you're not that clever. They thought of everything, right? Yep. Or, they certainly came close, and that they're pushing the player to think so far outside the box that if you realize, wait a minute, I'm in a place where I can trap myself in this room and not have the capacity to solve the puzzle, that they wrote special dialogue where GLaDOS specially mocks you. And she's like, no, I know you solved it. Go ahead, go get the cube. And she lowers the wall, and then you go and get it. And if you do it again, she makes fun of you a second time, because they knew people would push that envelope and see what happened. Right. And it's just the two. After that, she doesn't talk to you anymore, but she does keep lowering the wall. But I just love that not only do they think of that mechanically in the level design, not only do they build a room that visually is unique. There's no other room in the entire game that has a giant glass wall on one side that you control the wall going up and down. So it tempts you into playing with it, right? Because there's portable surfaces on the inside of that room and on the outside, but you can't shoot through portals through the glass walls, but you can lower the wall, shoot portals, and then go around and then screw it up, right? Like it's an incredible distillation of, man, they thought of everything.
Oh yeah. And actually, so I did know this, and I don't know if this counts as research, so admonish me if required. In our Portal 1 episode, I was looking for quotes from GLaDOS to use for our patrons. And because of that, I did find out that there are places you can soft lock yourself in Portal 1, because there are voice dialogue specifically for that. And it is through no fault of the Enrichment Center, you have managed to trap yourself in this room. An escape hatch will open in 3, 2, 1, and then it lets you out. So yeah, so I mean, like, so that's a great carryover, right? Is that they to your point, is that whenever you soft lock yourself, they don't just say like, hey, the game player, get out. It's like, no, Shell, you trapped yourself. So now we're gonna open up this portal or whatever. Yeah, so I think that's very well done. One of the things that this game does well, top to bottom, right? Because we've said before, is that in Portal 1, 90% of it's tutorial, right? In this one, they do a great job of like, well, you find a malfunctioning portal gun with Wheatley, and then GLaDOS, make sure you get the real one, because you must really love to test. But the thing that I personally love the most about the tutorial is the fact that you wake up in the relaxation chamber, right? And so they have you move around as part of your calisthenics. But my favorite part is times when people for a while, they have a you were under for quite a bit longer, so there's a chance that you may have substantial brain damage. So if you could just go ahead and say apple, and it says press X, right? Which is teaching you how to jump. It's like, okay, so that's jumping. What you just did is jumping. Try saying banana and jump again. It's like, okay, close enough. And then the game moves on, right? But the fact that the game deliberately misleads you, like that, again, because all they're trying to do is like, you need to know how to move in 4 directions. You need to know how to jump. We'll teach you the rest later. We just need to know that you know those 2 things, but that they don't waste your time with it. All of it steeped in the narrative is amazing. There is not a single point in this game where the game devs like look at you directly and say, player, I need this. It's all delivered in universe, and that type of attention to detail is amazing.
When it shows, because like say you somehow don't have my meme filled experience with this, or most people's meme filled experience with this, it shows that they prepared for someone to pick this game up knowing nothing about it. Never played a first person shooter, don't know a goddamn thing about Half-Life, no idea what the cake is, right? Like they could realistically be coming to Portal 2, even not just Portal, but coming to Portal 2 having never picked up a dual analog stick controller, right? And it's like, are the odds of that high? No, right? Like this is probably not someone's first twin stick shooter, or it's not a twin stick shooter, dual analog stick shooter. But it was Teddy's probably, right? Like, so they had to make sure that every player, as many players as possible, would feel welcome to the experience. And granted, that's the closest thing they do to handholding, and it is not handholding, but they still took the time to make it feel like you're in the universe, you're living the story, you're not playing a game.
While they're doing the world building, because they say, look down at the floor, like in your relaxation chamber, like look down at the floor. And it's like look at the art. You should now be relaxed, right? So they're kind of showing you like there's going to be a lot of dissonance, right? It's going to tell you to do a thing and then like jar you around. So again, like they're taking the time to do this world building. So they're like, while we're doing this world building that we kind of need to do anyways, let's just kind of throw a tutorial in there. So that's great. There's so many mechanics in this game. And the thing that I think is fascinating, because in Portal 1, they said, okay, it's portals, right? Two disparate places in space can be connected through a portal. That's all we're going to teach you. And in this one, I feel like they just were like, we taught people how to use portals to the point where people now say, now you're thinking with portals. Literally, my son, we were on a walk and he said, my right hand's my blue portal, my left hand's my red portal. And he was going pew, pew, and just like pointing at stuff. And literally he went pew at the ground and then pew at the ground in front of a car. And he said, see, now the car is in the seesaw. It's just going up and down. And I was like, now you're thinking with portals,
That's amazing.
So, right? And he's 6. So again, like that's how well they're teaching it. So then I feel like that they were like, we taught people how to think about physics differently. We are gods. And so then they said, how else can we screw with physics and now get people to think about physics that way? Like, what if there was a jumping thing? What if there was a thing that made you move fast? What if there was light that you could redirect through a bridge? What if there was it's just so much. And the fact that you are able to solve all of the puzzles means that they're teaching you all this. How are they even doing that?
So here's how I think they do in that. All of the mechanics in the second and third act, mostly what you get in the second act, but then they continue to build on it throughout the third act, are, I think, actually very simple changes to mechanics you already know. And you were the one who put this idea in my head. And then I just was like, oh, wait a minute. I bet they're doing this all over the damn place. So you said to me in one of our other conversations that the light bridge and the gravity tunnel thing are basically the same tools. The difference is the gravity tunnel is one direction, right? The light bridge, you can freely walk on it like ground. And then the gravity tunnel is you get pulled in one direction, and then you can switch it to orange and go in the other direction, right? Which is like a hat on a hat on a hat, right? They add a little bit more to it. I guess it's not that, because that's a bad thing. But anyway, I was thinking about that made me think about the aerial faith plate which are tiles on the ground, and you can't do anything about them. They just are where they are. And then I was like, oh, the aerial faithplate teaches you to think about the room in terms of its verticality, right? And then the blue gel says, okay, genius, where does the verticality need to go? Right.
Yep.
And then that I was like, oh, okay. So that's like how that one evolves. And I was thinking about the orange gel, and I was like, I'm not sure. This one may be unique. And then it just hit me while I was typing up my notes. I was like, no, it's not. It's falling sideways, right? Because when you shoot a portal on the ground and you shoot a portal on the ceiling, that's how you can get momentum, right? And then you can go flying through the air like a majestic eagle flying a pimp. But sometimes they wanted to create space over tremendous horizontal distance, especially because technologically they can make these rooms, the testing chambers, like gigantic now. And so they don't want you to just have momentum. They want you to think about using that momentum to cross large distances. And because of the way gravity works, we tend to think of large distances horizontally, not vertically. And so they needed a way to make you fall fast horizontally, and they do it with the orange gel. And I was like, they literally just said like, oh, it's falling, but sideways, right? The blue gel is just the aerial faith plates, but you get to decide where it goes. The tunnel is just the light bridge, but it only works in one direction. And it's like, but that one additional quirk changes everything.
And to your point, right? Or to the dual point, right? Because to be fair, the orange gel, I hadn't thought of it that way, but it's so intuitive that I did explain it that way. Because again, like I was explaining this to Teddy, and I would say like, you need to be moving really quickly. There's two ways for you to do that, either falling or the orange gel. Can you fall in this room? And he was like, no. I'm like, then it's probably the orange gel, So literally, I didn't think of it that way, but I was explaining it that way, right? And to your point, right, is that is that little kind of behind the scenes kind of thing where they're like, okay, what did they do? Like instead of just making a light bridge, right, that has arrows on it that force you to go one way, they just made it a completely different visual, right? So it feels completely different, but because they kind of know how your brain works, right, you feel like a freaking madman genius because you're like, oh my God, I can figure out this, and I know how this works, and I know how this works. And then when you actually sit down and think about it, it's like, actually, I'm just learning. They taught me how to read, and now I'm just making like slightly different words, all in the op family, right? So it's like hop, top, pop, but it's just like, look at all these words I know. It's like, well, really, you know the op family, and you know your consonants. You know, like
I think in kindergarten they call that, is it CVC words, consonant vowel consonant words? So you're like cat, hat, bat, mat, and it's like that's kind of one word in a way. You know, one word sort of.
Yeah. The way, and everybody teaches it differently, but the way that Teddy was learning was the word families, so like the at family, the up family, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, same thing, right? Where it's just kind of like one word, and you just kind of know how to like put a new word, a new letter in front of everything. So anyway, so yeah, no, I think that is one of the key ways that they do teach all this stuff to you, and then what they do is they teach you each thing in isolation. Say like, okay, now use these two things together. Now use these two things together. And I will tell you what, we were actually talking earlier about like, your brain releasing the happy chemical, and man,
which out of context sounds super messed up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like, you want your brain to say like, hey, good job, monkey, do more of that. Right. So the frequency at which this game can give you that aha moment is staggering, because basically what they do is they're like, okay, here's a new mechanic. You're like, oh, okay, I think I got that. And then right when you get comfortable with it, they're like, okay, now use these two now we taught you A, we taught you B in isolation. Now use A and B together. Cool, you got that? Good. Now here's C. Now use A and C. Now use B and C. You've mastered all of that. Good. Now use A, B, and C. And so, but you don't really think of it that way. You're just like, oh, wait, like, I mean, I know that when because they taught you that if you put blue gel on a thing, it makes the thing bouncy, right? So in that one room, much later when you're with Wheatley, right, and you're using the anti-grav chamber, right, to then get blue goo over all of the turrets that are shooting you, and then you release it all at once and they bounce all over the place. I'm like, I am a golden god, like it just makes you feel so good. So the fact that they're able to like distill that human emotion and then deliver it, I mean, what, like 98, 100 times in the game is really impressive.
I was thinking about what you might call like escalating mechanics, right? So like this thing builds onto that thing, right? I mean, this is basic game design, but like it's because of the nature of the game, it's so in your face, right? Like you're doing this. Now here is a harder puzzle. Now here is a harder puzzle, right? Like Mario games also do that, but they're like a little more subtle about it because it's not supposed to feel like you're in a laboratory. This game has a set of chambers toward the very end of Act 2 that you need to know to beat the game in Act 3. And narratively, it makes sense the way they do it. But I think mechanically, it's kind of their swan song. It really feels like these, I think it's 2, maybe 3 chambers, is their way of saying, we're not going to do more after this because this is the logical conclusion, and doing more than this will be annoying. And here's what it is. When you first find out that the portalable surfaces are made out of ground up moon rocks and they are super cancerous, the next thing they do is they put you into a room where you have to put portals down to put the gel onto surfaces to make those surfaces portable. So what they do is they put you into a big grimy room because you're still in like the underground part, and they just kind of go, all right, smart guy, where would you have to be able to portal to solve this puzzle, right? Because we talked about in Portal 1, and they do this throughout the first 70% of Portal 2, is they use the environment to say, well, you can't portal everywhere, right? So the places you can put portals must be related or are probably related to solving the puzzle. Maybe it's not the very next step you need, but you're going to need it in 2 steps or 5 steps or whatever. So the fact that they put you, I think literally only twice, into a space where they say like, okay, smart guy, you need to get out of this room. Where would you need to be able to portal? Now make those surfaces portable. And if they continued to extrapolate on that, I think the game would either get stupid hard, or it would be so confusing as to not give you the happy chemical. It would would increase the likelihood of giving you the like, oh, come on. Like, oh, that's dumb. Right. And that risk is not one I think they are interested in taking, because they're not trying to trick you. They're trying to spoon feed you the answer and make you think you fed yourself, right? Like, which is awesome. I love that feeling. I love feeling like I'm smart. That's a great feeling. So I don't actually want super, super hard puzzles, because that's not actually what I'm here for. I'm here for the narrative and for kind of hard puzzles that, make me feel like I deserve a pat on the head. If I wanted super hard puzzles, I would like try to become a Go or a chess master, because that's why I don't really love those things, because they scratch a very different itch for people. And so I think the fact that they put those puzzles there toward the very end of the game, and then they kind of dial that back, and you spend a little time like going through the Wheatley puzzles where there's almost none of that. In fact, I think there is none of that. But then, of course, when you fight Wheatley, that's when you have to throw the portable gel around first, and then you also use the repulsor gel and the accelerator gel, and it's in pretty obvious ways. But again, the point is for you to feel smart, not for it to be a super complicated puzzle. Like, that just gave me this weird kind of sense of closure, because I was like, oh, they did it. They did the thing that would make Portal so hard it's no longer fun, and they give it to you in just a small enough sample, right? It's like it's like if the heroin drip, right, the morphine drip gives you like that kind of a little bit too much happy feeling, that showing you what it would be like if you had to build all your own portable surfaces is like an endless field of poppy seeds. It's like, yeah, it's neat in theory. You don't actually want to go there and put all of that in you. You'll die. So just feel like, look upon it and then go kill Wheatley and go about your life.
You know what it is, and this is slightly tangential, and I agree with you 100%. Is to me, it's one of my favorite movies is Logan, because I think it's just an excellent end to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right?
Absolutely.
But one of the things that they do that I thought was like to me was like looking directly at the audience was they had X-24 whatever, like the Wolverine, which is a CGI version of Logan, right? Because theoretically, Logan doesn't age, right? So it's like, is this what you want? Do you want a CGI'd mess of just, like him being this immortal 36-year-old for the rest of his life? Like, no, you don't want that. So it's that, right? Where they're like, yeah, can we do it? Yeah, but if you had a Goku that could beat Superman, would you even want him? It's that. So agreed 100%. And I think to your point of it being their swan song is one, narratively, it's closed in a very, very nice way. Now, if this particular drug dealer said, you want a Portal 3? I'd be like, yes, I do. I mean, probably not, but I will pay you for that. Yeah. That being said, is that I think that to your point is that they kind of pushed it in the one player mode as far as they could. And they said like, oh, what if we gave you 4 portals instead of 2? And so they gave you a co-op mode, and there's like 40 some odd puzzles with that. Right. And then, and I'm not through that yet, because I think that there is actually a narrative there that I'm curious how that goes.
Yeah. So let me interrupt you for just 1 second. I'm going to do a rare plug for the after show. I want to talk to you about the co-op mode in the after show, and I promised I wouldn't drag that into the Portal 2 episode because it is a very separate thing. So we will spend at least a portion of the after show talking about the co-op mode, which is their way of cheating and not having to go to the logical conclusion of, okay, smart guy, where you put more portals? No, just more portals, right? So we will talk about that in the after show, which you can get by becoming a patron for just as little as $1 a month.
$1.
Yeah, $1. Now you can finish your thing.
But basically the idea being is it's like, okay, so 4 portals. What new, interesting, fun stuff can you do with 4 portals, right? 6 portals is going to get, because again, like this isn't, what is it, Fortnite, where it's just a battle royale of portals, right? Like they've got to
Portal Royale.
Yeah, they've got to make these puzzles, right? So they're like, all righty, what if we made it a bit more complicated and put in 4 portals? All right. But that's basically as far as we can reasonably push this mechanic, to your point, before it starts to get either samey or it gets like, frustratingly complex, right? So it's like, this is it. We tied it up narratively. We've pushed this mechanic as far as it can reasonably go. We're done. We're good. Don't ask us. Don't Half-Life 3 this. Wait a minute. Portal 2 came out in 2011, and if you add 2 to 11, the last digit is 3. Half-Life 3 confirmed.
I knew it.
Honestly, I mean, like we've kind of talked a lot about the mechanics, but to me, like the a lot of my notes were in kind of the visual differences. Mechanically, I think that the big thing that they hit on is just the way that they can literally make you think about physics in a different way that I think is worth speaking to. So honestly, I didn't really have a whole lot of notes for mechanics because I think that's the big one. Yeah,
and because it's the mechanics are another in the checklist of more, right? But it's more gracefully, right? There's gracefully more visuals, there's gracefully more audio, there's gracefully more mechanics, right? Like they do add what seems on the surface like 1,000 more mechanics, but really they added like 2 or 3 new mechanics and then 2 or 3 modifications to those that subconsciously you probably will put together pretty easily, but you'll feel super smart when you do it, right? So like it's a very graceful way to make it feel like there's more. Oh my God, there's so much more, but it's like, no, there's not as much more as you think, but they gave it to you in a way that made it feel really voluminous, which is an important trick to play for mechanics, because if you feel like you mastered a game with 1,000 complex mechanics, man, do you feel smart. If you feel like you mastered a game with 3 mechanics and 3 variations on those mechanics, then you're like, well, that's not that much, right?
Yeah, so like, whatever.
It's an important trick to pull.
The one final thing I didn't write my notes, but I did want to mention, because we kind of discussed it, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that there are a couple of times when, because this game was made for every platform that you can imagine, except for the fact that they then didn't make it for the PS4 or the PS5 or the later ones, right?
At release time, it had a broad release.
It was made for everything. I would still, so that's a tall order for anyone, but I will say that I would probably guess that the bulk of their play testing was done on a computer, because there are a couple of times where we kind of discussed where you have to move, especially on the acceleration gel, you have to move incredibly quickly in exactly one direction, so like if you're wiggling on that analog stick a little bit, you're not going to thread the needle like you need to. But to your point, is if you just hold up on the up button, it does it perfectly every time. And so it wasn't until you said that I was like, oh, that's the issue, is that if you've got a keyboard input, it's no sweat. If you got an analog stick input, it's a problem.
Big sweat.
Yep, lots of sweat. But I did want to make sure that we mentioned that, because I think that's one of the first times where I was like, oh, the input device super matters here.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair to a game that we've showered with a lot of glowing praise that it deserves, that is one thing that you could argue they were, because Valve is very much a PC gaming company, right? Like, they release some of their games on other systems, but they are a PC gaming company more than they're anything else. And you can feel that only, what would you say, like 3, maybe 4 times?
Yeah. It is very rare.
Yeah. It's not a lot, but it's bad enough. And I think I may have shared this with you, but it's bad enough that on my first playthrough, there were a couple puzzles where I got stuck because I found out the left analog stick on the controller I was using was broken. And so I couldn't do a true straight north, like directly in front of me, which meant as far as the game was concerned, I was not moving as fast as I could be, which made a couple of puzzles straight up impossible. So Fortunately, I was playing on PC, so I was able to switch keyboard and mouse, and then I had another controller to use. But like, if you were just playing on an Xbox or on a PlayStation 3, like, and your controller didn't quite work, like that would be instantly experience shattering, right? I'm sure that did not happen to most people. The controller that I was using that was broken is a very old controller, but like, that is a risk that they decided they were willing to run.
All that being said, I mean, if people couldn't guess, is this game worth a play?
It's worth a play, but I have a curveball to throw you. The more I have thought about this, the more committed I am to the idea that Portal 2 and Portal 2 co-op is actually one long game. Mm-hmm. It is one long game narratively, and it is one long game mechanically, right? Portal is the prologue to Portal 2, which is the actual game, and then Portal 2 co-op is the epilogue. And I would say with a pretty high level of confidence that anyone who is playing this game for the first time, play them like that. Play Portal as the prologue to this, then play the game, Portal 2, and then play Portal 2 co-op, and do that. Don't binge it, but do that in a relatively small amount of time. Treat it like I'm going to watch all 3 Lord of the Rings movies, right? Like, yes, it is a huge investment, but narratively, when you get to the end of Fellowship, you don't really have a lot of closure. When you get to the end of Portal 1, there is a ton of closure, but you want more, right?
Yep.
And man, does Portal 2 have a lot of more in it, right? But you won't have the satisfying pants crapping moments with GLaDOS if you don't have that prologue. You need it, right?
You have to play Portal. I mean, like, you don't, whenever somebody's like, oh, you have to watch, I mean, you don't do whatever you want, live your lives. But it I would say that the experience is inexorably lessened if you just jump straight into Portal 2.
Yeah. And then Portal 2 co-op, granted, it does require a second player, although I think you can cheat it with one person, but it's like so mind-bogglingly hard, it's not worth it. Portal 2 co-op has a narrative bookend that is as satisfying as the narrative bookends you get at the end of Portal and Portal 2, but that feels more conclusive. Like, they're not just like, oh, to be continued in Portal 3. Like, it really ties everything up in that last little, it's the mint at the end of the meal, right? Like, is Portal 2 still delicious without Portal 2 co-op? Like, yes, 100%. Do you enjoy the mint? Yeah, you do. So eat it, right? Like, so I play this game. Yes, no nostalgia goggles required. This game learned from history. It's amazing. Everyone should play it because it's just absolutely a fantastic art object and pop culture artifact and just video game. It's a great, great game. I would seriously recommend, though, you got to do the full extended edition Lord of the Rings. You have to do Portal 2 co-op, especially if you don't feel like you're going to go back to this. Like, if you're only going to do it once, you would better goddamn well do it right.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get it. It was all right. I don't want to be that guy on like Steam where it's like 1,300 hours played and the review is like, it's okay. It's like literally, because it does tell you how many hours you played. I know that I put 40 hours, a full work week, into this game. And again, not only is the game that does it learn from everything, this is a game that is, I believe, if you know how to move with a dual analog stick, like that's the only barrier to entry on this game, which I'm sure most of our listeners would be like, psh, whatever. Hand your parents a dual analog stick controller and Minecraft and just record that, man. I mean, so it is a skill that needs to be learned, but if you have that skill, then literally you can be 6 years old and you can play through this game. Like there's no barrier to entry on this. And honestly, it's a delight. And it's completely, it's bingeable. You can sit there and play it over and over again and, like see how fast you can do the puzzles, see if you can do them in fewer portals, and actually literally there's a puzzle in the game that Teddy has now played through the game multiple times. He consistently solves it arguably wrong, but it works. Like he did a thing and I was like, oh no, buddy, you're going to have to put a portal there and you're going to have to do this other thing. He went, no. And he just did it completely differently. And I was like, I guess that works. Go for it, man. So it's just great. So, like the moral of this story is you've got your portal, take it. That's what I'm counting on.
The curtain falls. The music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black. And you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone. There's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creep in with the edge of a smile. You realize again what you lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less on how you saved the day